everyone. We are so sorry for being late. We're apologizing for having some technical issues, but actually we are so happy for having Anthony Reeves on our event, Freelance Job Fair. This is one of the very pioneering speakers speaking in Middle East. Actually, Anthony have accepted our invitation from the beginning. We are so happy to have him today. His profile has a wide experience and background because he has working on business strategy, creative, global creativity, and has a very wide experience with client leadership. And he will talk today about personal branding from freelancing perspective. So thank you so much, Anthony, for accepting our invitation. And thank you for the presentation that you will provide today. Thank you. So I will leave yours a second. Okay, and it is yours. Good luck.
Thank you very much as well. It's great to be here today, and again, apologize for running a bit late. Before I joined Amazon, I had been in many large agencies. I worked inside LMBH, I worked inside WPP, and I had amazing experiences. And I thought before I joined Amazon that I knew a lot about leadership and a lot about customers and what customers actually wanted. I was probably about 60 to 90 days in, and I was laying out my roadmap for the company and for the team and where we were going to go, what direction we're going to head within the next couple of years. And the way that Amazon does documents is very, very different to most of the world. And so, Amira, make sure we're sharing the screen if possible, please. And so when we do a presentation inside Amazon, it's incredibly different. You write a really long document. You don't share any images. You don't share anything like that. And everyone walks in the room and just reads the document for 45 to 50 minutes. And in this room, there are a lot of people. But after about 40 minutes, Jeff sat back on his chair and looked at me and said, "You've got this entirely wrong." He said, "You've done a great job laying out the roadmap, but what you've done is taken it from the brand forward instead of the customer and work backwards." He said, what I want you to do exactly what you did before, but switch the order, start with the customer and work backwards. And this is like, to me, it changed my mind because as a marketer, I always thought that our product and our service came first. That's totally incorrect when it comes to branding from a point of view of Amazon, from a point of view of Tesla, from a point of view of Apple. They always start with the customer, what they're looking for, and actually work backwards. This approach to Amazon changed my life and really made me rethink how I go about building a team, how I go about building work, but more importantly, what does growth really look like from a large brand point of view. Amir, can you go to the second slide, please? And so when we're talking about growth, I really think about brands that want to grow and grow really fast, and how do you build an experience around that brand? So on the second slide here, you should see a photo of my wife and my daughter here in Seattle. But I want to make sure that one of the things I always talk about now is as a creative, our job is really to help a brand grow. We're really in the growth business. If you think about designing or writing or being an art director or even a film director, our job is to make sure that we are growing and we are growing fast. And that's why when I'm looking at building a creative team or in talks like this, I always think about how do you help that brand take the next step. Most of my keynote presentations are really about leadership and how a leader must evolve their way of thinking. Take the Amazon approach, is really putting the customer at the center of what you're doing, and then work backwards from that customer. The keynotes that I deliver, or the workshops that I normally deliver, are about building those experiences. But for today, I actually made a huge difference and really want to talk about building brand experiences. And then I have a second part, which talks about the experience that you should be looking at giving potential employees or potential companies that you're going to freelance for. Go to the third slide, please. So the first part today, I'm going to talk about building brand experiences, and this is really, really critical. The fourth slide, please, Amira. Because when you think about building a brand experience, knowing that we are in the experience economy now, no matter if you're living in Northern Africa, Southern Africa, the Mid East, even the US, experience is the number one thing. And those experiences can be physical, well, not so much at the moment, but they can be physical or they can be virtual. And understanding the difference is how to make an experience for each brand is absolutely what we're doing. So as a creative, as a designer, really understand the business of what you're doing. The fifth slide, please, Amira. There's a very, very recent study that came out like 3 months ago by IBM that states that 84% of customers say the experience the company provides is as important as a product or service. I don't think about that for a second. So if I'm a product marketer, my job is product marketing. How do I offer a better experience in an online world for people to buy my product? And one of the things I really noticed about Amazon is not a retail company. Don't think of Amazon as a retail company. Don't think of Amazon as a tech company. Think of Amazon as an experience brand. So living in the US right now, I think of Amazon as I need a product, I need it delivered within 2 hours. So the advantage for a marketer is I can take advantage of the experience that Amazon offers the customer, sorry. So it's key to think about if I'm in the experience business and I'm a creative in the experience business, how do I adapt my way of thinking for the customer and what they're looking for? On slide 6, please, Amira. So customers are now really prioritizing their encounters and connections over physical stuff. So I have a choice between 2 products and one product offers me a better experience. As a customer, I will naturally lean into the brand that offers me that better experience overall. When you're really thinking about creating or designing a product for experience, don't just think about the entire user flow of what you're offering is absolutely critical. So whether it's physical or on-site, really think about if I'm not just designing something or physically designing something or building a UX, is like, what are those connection points that really keep the customer engaged all the way through, and how to help them have that experience instead of just selling them a widget. I want to move to slide 7. I think this is a great case in point. There's a terrific quote here from Richard Branson that talks about that anyone can buy an airplane, but if you fly on a Virgin plane, you have a completely different experience. Now, a couple of things. I can't buy an airplane right now, right? So that's absolutely critical. I can't buy an airplane right now. But if you think of an Airbus, for example, an Airbus 320 is an Airbus 320. No matter which airline is owning the Airbus, it's exactly the same experience. You have one plane, and hopefully the pilots are all trained the same, and hopefully the ground crew knows how to service the plane. You have the same food, you have the same cabin staff, access to the same talent across the world. But at the end of the day, it's still an Airbus. It's still going through the air at 800 miles an hour, and you're sitting up there enjoying a bag of peanuts. So the experience that Virgin offers is exactly the same experience that every other airline brand in the world can offer. But why, when I'm traveling, I actually prefer Virgin? Because I know I'll get a better experience, even though the plane is exactly the same plane everyone else offers. And this quote, I really stumbled across that when a brand in the US was having a bad experience, and they were pulling people off flights. And I think it's experience as a creative, our job is to really solve this experience problem. So if you go to slide 8, my sense is brand loyalty is dead. Really think about brand loyalty and how you're going to really make sure that the experience of the brand is really pulling up to the brand itself. And with 73% of customers saying they'll switch brands purely based on the experience itself, how do you as a creative actually get there? So if you go to slide 9, I think the biggest thing here is stop selling. Stop selling immediately and really start thinking about the experience will actually do the selling for you. And I'm going to give you a few examples in a second. But when people feel like they've been sold to, they'll stop. Now, as an older creative person, I would say, I grew up in the interruptive world, right? We were building these TV spots, and we were looking at these great TV spots, and our job at that point was to interrupt someone's world. I'm just seeing some of the questions here, and apparently we are not getting any slides. I know Amir is working on that. Give me 2 secs. Let's double check. So I'm not too sure what's happening. I know you can't see slides. Amir, do you want me to pause? So I think we're having some technical issues continue. So why don't we take a deviant? If you're not, can someone just type in the session chat to let me know if you can see slides at the moment or not? And if we can't see slides, maybe we just go straight to a Q&A while we start fixing the question. Can someone just type out quickly what's going on there? Thanks, Mohammed. I really appreciate your response there. So if someone wants to ask me a question while we fix the slide issue, that'd be great. A couple of really things I think about when looking at a freelancer looking to hire someone is, and I'm going to go into this when we see the slides, but I know I'm talking a lot about experiences, but I really want you to think about the experience that you offer your team, and what experience you can give to any potential client you're going to work for. I've been, during this pandemic, when in the US and around the world, we've had a lot of people that have really been struggling with finding work. One of the things I've been really focusing on is helping people really look at the experience they want to offer potential employees or potential hirees or full time. One of the things I think about is it's good enough to have a great portfolio of work. It's good enough to have a great resume of work. But to get that job or to get that experience, you have to go a lot further now and start thinking about it. And so from my point of view, is really think about your LinkedIn and your Twitter feed. And this is absolutely critical. Twitter to me is really talking about having a constant presence out there and making sure that people know that you're out there looking for work and having great commentary about it. I believe in keeping Twitter positive at all times and making sure it's out there. From a LinkedIn point of view, in the keynote in the PowerPoint presentation, eventually when it's up, I will show you 2 different LinkedIn profiles, one from a production designer and one from an art director, and we'll be able to quickly see which one I would personally hire first if I was a hiring manager looking at this role. Personal branding. When I'm talking about personal branding, I'm talking about personal branding myself. And how do I brand myself? And it's not just about being. It's making sure you're putting your best foot out there. And there's a great creative here called Kenny Thacker, and Kenny Thacker has really taught me about being authentic to who I am and bringing my authentic self to work. And so, yes, it's very important to bring your authenticity of yourself through to your profiles. Remember that the chance of meeting someone face to face is a lot harder at the moment, and the social networks that you are building is critical. So whether it's through your Twitter feed or through your LinkedIn profile, it's how do you bring your personality through there. And also right down to the photographs you choose for a profile shot is absolutely critical. So how do you think about bringing your personal brand, who you are as a person, and authentic to who you are, directly to your social channels? So if I'm a hiring manager, I can go to your Twitter feed or to your LinkedIn profile and automatically understand who you are as a person. I can believe that you can succeed being true to yourself. And years ago, when I think it would have been my first creative director role, like a decade and a half ago, maybe even earlier. I don't think there's a couple of times that I don't think I was authentic to myself and to my personal brand. And I remember one job we were working on, and I think it was in Australia or New Zealand, and we were putting this job forward, and I was trying to manage my team and put the role out there, and I couldn't work out whether I should spend time with the team or spend time with the client. And that was my job as a creative director, was to do that. And because I wasn't being my natural self and who I wanted to be, it actually caused issues both with the team and both with the client, because they actually didn't know who they were dealing with at the time. We have some slides. Awesome. Amira, let's go back up. Let's go way, way back up. Let's go like to slide 5 or something like that. Let's go to slide 2. Let's go to slide 2. Is it possible to go to slide 2? Awesome. We'll start here. So that's my wife and my lovely daughter in Seattle. And it's really funny. One of the things people ask me about leadership a lot is it that great? I'm going to tell you now, like, really be careful how far you want to grow up in your career versus how wide you want to grow in your career. And people say that once you're an executive creative director or a chief creative, your life is kind of made for you. And I'm going to say that goes back to Muhammad's question about personal branding and authenticity, who you are. I think when I first became in charge of a department of a couple of hundred people, it made it really hard to be my natural self, to work out who I am as a person. So while leadership is great, it's kind of sucks at the same time, to be perfectly blunt, because everyone wants progress. Like, I think of my personal portfolio, I want to make progress. But change is actually really, really hard. And so as you go up in your career, it becomes harder to actually make and help people change as it goes through. So Amazon taught me a ton about growth leadership, and it taught me an immense amount about how to build a brand from the inside out and really focus on the team about building growth. So when I do my keynotes on stages, one of the things, there's 3 things I talk about from a growth point of view. One is a team has to have a really clear purpose. And I think of Amazon, and the purpose of Amazon is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. It's not to sell stuff, it's to be very customer-centric. From a team point of view, they need a sense of belonging. It's a very tribalistic thing, but why should I work for you? What is the reason I belong to that tribe? And the third thing is, what's the belief behind that? So purpose, belief, and belonging are the 3 things I look for from a team point of view. Mira, what's going on? Great. Can we move forward a slide? We're going to move through these very quickly because I know we've been here before. So go to slide 3, please. Next slide. So we're going to build today in 2 parts. One is brand experiences, and the other one is about the personal experience itself. So I'm going to really race through these very quickly. So I know we're probably getting short on time. So can you go to the second slide, please? I want to make, next slide, please. So we'll keep moving to the next one as well, very quickly. So I want to make sure if everyone wants to screen cap these, go ahead and take screen caps. I think I personally love it when I'm watching a keynote where someone can actually grab a screen. So when I think about customers and the experience, I really think about how to offer them a much better experience in what they're doing, how to actually help them move forward. A lot of people are asking about the sales funnel. Does, from awareness right down to awareness, consideration, and to the point of selling. I don't think that sales funnel exists anymore. As a customer, if I can go from zero awareness about a product all the way through to buying it within a matter of seconds, I kind of wonder, does a sales funnel exist? Next slide, please, Amira. So one of the things to think about, and I'm choosing Amazon and Nike to talk about a lot, is customers are prioritizing encounters and connections over stuff. So they're really looking for that human connection and that physical experience they can offer people over buying things. And this is really important as a creative to think about, is how can you help a customer really move back into the product itself. And a lot of brands start by making a product and trying to sell it to a customer. I believe now you should start with the customer and work backwards to work out what they're actually looking for. Next slide, please, Amira. Move. Great. This is the quote from Richard Branson, which I found about 2 years ago. When he was talking about buying and have a fly on a Virgin flight and you have a completely different experience. This quote came out when United Airlines in the US physically dragged someone from a plane, and they dragged the doctor from the plane to give the seat up to one of their flight crew. And I thought about, all they're doing is dragging this person from an Airbus or from a Boeing plane. And the experience that United offers is very different from the experience that Virgin offers. But theoretically, they do the same job. If I'm a customer, why would I think about taking a flight on a United flight versus a Virgin flight? Thanks, Amir. Next slide, please. So in a nutshell, the word brand loyalty is kind of dead to a certain extent. We used to create brands to create memories. And you think about, the job of a marketer or of a creative person at a time was actually create a physical memory. How do you create a memory about something? So when someone's shopping or going to the supermarket or grocery store to buy a product, our job was to embed a memory into their head so they can think about that product when they're actually going to buy it. So, maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we were in the memory business, which talked a lot about loyalty. But if people can flip brands really quickly because they want a better experience, we need, as creative people, we need to be thinking about that now and how we can build a better experience. Next slide, please, Amira. And the experience we offer is absolutely critical across the board. So in a nutshell, our job is stop selling and really start thinking about the experience. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Amira. So I'm going to give you a couple of great examples here, and we'll flick through these pretty quickly. This is a back to school. So when the kids in the US are about to go back to school, this is back to school with LeBron. And what I would think about is this is 100% on Amazon. All these examples for Nike back to school is 100% on inside the Amazon platform. And you flick through the next slide, please. And what we wanted to talk about was what LeBron was doing to actually bring it back to school. So on the left hand, and take screen grabs if you like. On the left hand side, we're talking about how we connect the community. We have hero videos that we actually went out and built about LeBron going into the schools, talking about football, talking about all the other sports. But even though this exists inside Amazon as a retailer, this experience we're offering is not just selling a pair of basketball shoes or football cleats. It's about the experience we're actually building sitting inside Amazon.com. Next slide, please, Amira. So eventually, you can see how we actually move forward here. Down the page. Next slide, please. Thank you. And let's go to the next one again. So and just keep moving, just keep tabbing through, please, Amira. So it's very quickly be able to see the experience we offered, and this is inside a retail site, and as well as running on Nike.com. So we keep tabbing through, please. So it's important to think about the experience overall that we were giving buyers of Nike shoes from the start. And can you just go through to the next example, please? And the next one. Keep moving, please. And one more. Next slide, please, Amira. So can you just roll through these pretty quickly? So this is another apparel brand called Rafa. They're based out of London. Instead of having, I'll talk about it, but great, we don't have slides. So one of the things that Rafa has done a really great job at is the experience they've offered are actually in store. So the only place they really sell is online and a little bit in store. But they really got into the headspace of the cycling community and realized that the cycling community is all about coffee and coffee shops and going into a store pre-ride. So all the experiences that they built was centered around the store. Now, I'm a cyclist. I've been a cyclist for a long time. And one of the things they do for me is if I'm traveling the world, they'll offer me a free bike rental at any of their store locations. And so, just prior to the pandemic, I was in London. I wanted to go for a ride in London. I didn't know where I was riding around. I could link up with a ride with the Rafa team in the London store in Soho, and they took me for a ride around the suburbs in London. I just borrowed a bike from Rafa itself. Can I have the next slide, please? So from their point of view, they were thinking about the experience overall. Go to the next two slides, please. Here's a coffee shop. And then they took that to the professional level. So with professional cycling, they brought the stories to life and the experience of being a professional cyclist. And they took videos and online and through the social channels of what it's like being a professional cyclist, the journal of them and what they live like, but made sure that experience really came to life across the board, and it ran in the coffee shops. And next slide, please. All right, this is part two. This is the meaty stuff. And I have one more slide, please, Amira. This is where I really want you to have to think about your personal experience and your personal branding and how you are going to present yourself out there in the community, knowing that the experience is important now. And you need to build an experience around yourself as a professional creative, because this experience is just as important as your portfolio and just as important as your skill set. So I'm going to talk about me a lot because I've had some really bad experiences where I've done some really silly things that I should not have done growing up. As a creative leader now, as a creative leader, my portfolio is table stakes, right? So if I'm applying for a job, the portfolio I have now, everyone else in the world at my level has a very similar portfolio. It's exactly the same. We've probably worked on the same brands. We've probably worked on the same clients. We've had the same problems. But the three things as a creative leader that I have to think about is, what is the culture that I want to build inside of a creative team? What is my approach to new business, and what's my success rate in driving new business? But also the retention rate of the team. Can I retain people? Next slide, please, Amira. So when I think about those things as a creative leader, I need to be really, really careful. So here are two different headshots of myself that I've used in the past. Both are fine for their own reasons, right? They're both fine. But if I'm applying for a job to head up a large creative team in North America or globally, which shot do you think is going to give the CEO or the head of talent the opportunity to think that Anthony Reeves is a true business-led creative that understands the creativity and what I'm actually doing? So a global headhunter actually spoke to me and said, Anthony, get rid of that funky shot. Like, get rid of that. Don't do that, because the CEO doesn't want to see that. They want to see the shot on the right, which is talking about you being in front of clients, being able to speak properly, being able to express yourself, help driving new business, and help driving change inside the company. So really, from my point of view, right down to the photograph, I've got to be really careful of what brand I put out there for myself, for what job I'm going to get. So the photo on the right is the one that I use. That's on my LinkedIn profile. That's on all of my bios. The one on the left, I don't use that at all. I had to struggle to find that photo for this presentation. On the next slide, please. The other thing to think about is Twitter being your best friend to getting a new gig. Now, a lot of CEOs, a lot of hiring managers are not on Twitter. They don't go to Twitter. But the thing is, I want you to think about that they won't post on Twitter, but they will go there. And Twitter is a great social network. You're building great experience for yourself. Recently, someone approached me about a job through the Twitter network. They knew who I was. They were thinking about what I was doing and what I wanted to achieve. And they said, would you be interested in applying for this role inside this company? It was purely based on my interactions with people inside of the Twitter sphere. And so when I think about building experience around who I am, especially in these COVID times when you can't go out and meet people as often, or can't shake hands as often, or can't hug people as often, it's really important to think about the experience you're putting out there. Next slide, please. And the reason for this is there's a proof out there that creative people or advertising people overall, we're social media junkies. We love social media. Doesn't mean that we're actually sitting on social media and tweeting out or on LinkedIn all the time, but we will go to those sites and have a really great look. And this chart here talks about the advertising community on the left-hand side and the general population of the rest of the community on the right-hand side. And you can see how much we actually lean into the social platforms. So whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, etc., we're really leaning these social communities. So think about how you're going to use these social platforms to really build the brand around yourself and how you go forward. So as a creative people, we're twice as likely to use Netflix, or 3 times for Pinterest, or 4 times more likely to use Twitter than the average people. So when people say don't use Twitter because a lot of people aren't on Twitter, you can say that's true. A lot of people aren't on Twitter, but the people that I want to talk to are actually on there. And it's a great way to build a profile for yourself. Next slide, please. Hi, Mary. Next slide, please. So the next slide, I believe, should be talking about your LinkedIn profile and what's happening on your LinkedIn profile and how to move that. So when we get there, we can talk about, I've got side by side 2 different LinkedIn profiles that you can really see what the person is doing. So not too sure what's going on. I will talk about Twitter a little bit more. I don't expect everyone on Twitter to have 100,000 followers. It's not that. You really should have the people that really matter on your Twitter or LinkedIn profile. Make sure the experience you're building is talking about what you want to do. So for instance, on my LinkedIn profile, I talk a lot about how to build teams and how to build growth and how to have a great culture. But for someone who's a user experience designer or a UI designer, or talking about how to think about, talk about whether you want to talk about the skill set you have or what you learned or just sharing information. But it's really important to think about being present on these platforms in a consistent and constant manner. Personally, if someone tries to get negative on Twitter, and it can be a very negative platform, I always just get out of that chat straight away. I don't like negativity. It sucks me into a dark hole. So I personally try and stay away from the negative side of social media. Okay, while we're waiting for these slides, there we go. So here we have two people side by side here. We have Patrick Hafferty and we have Mark Blackburn. I've been fortunate enough to work with both of these gentlemen over the years. Looking side by side, you can see a complete difference in their well, you could see a complete difference in their profile. Patrick on the left had no top headline that wasn't talking about himself. It simply said art director at the top. He had a pretty decent photograph. He had no examples of work or anything like that. Could you go back up to one slide, please, up higher? One more, other way, backwards, top. Perfect. We're getting really gritty here, where Mark on the other side was very, very clear on what he was offering there. He's a production designer, had all the experience. But here's the great thing about what Mark did. If you look really closely at this on the right-hand side, he lives in Chicago, and he's got the picture of the skyline underneath that. But underneath there's all the logos that he's touched over the years. And it's really important to think about the logos that he's worked on over the years. His description, it's very, very clear what he does. And then in his featured work, he's talking about the product design he's actually worked on, or packaging he's worked on. And these two profiles side by side. So in theory, Mark is by far one of the best production artists I've ever worked with in my life. He's absolutely stunning at his job. He's not a top level designer. He's not a top level art director, but he's so detail oriented, and he can make a file zing like no one else can. Patrick is a really great art director, but his profile doesn't say that. His profile is kind of bland, kind of boring. So really think about what you can actually put in your LinkedIn and your Twitter profile that would help you give a better experience for people to actually,